We are giving you the plays you need to start your business off strong. I know I totally butchered our phrase there, but Maria is trying to log in really quickly. So while we wait for Maria and Ray to join us, Chanel, welcome again. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah.
I don't think you butchered it. I think it's one of those things, like everyone has their own flair. And I think you put your flair on it, right?
That's right. Yep. I like to make a little flair once in a while. Keeps life interesting.
Yes. So I know that this week we have some fun things we're going to talk about. And I don't know if you had a chance to catch it last week, but last week I talked about like all the things that I do that take up too much, mistakes I made, right? Like they took up too much time for me to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing what I do, which is I go through and I figure out how much I spend on things every month. And so when I started my business, a lot of stuff I did like the month to month. So it was $11 a month, $13 a month. And so I realized I was spending quite a bit of, under $20 a month, right?
Yeah.
So I did the math. And if you are a new business owner, this is something to consider. If I would pay for the monthlies of all the things that I spend under $20 a month on, I would save myself almost $400 a year.
Wow.
Yes. So something to consider if you're trying to figure out like how to streamline some of your expenses is to do the math. I didn't realize how much I was spending on month-to-month products.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
I think I only have one that I use that's truly month to month for my business. And that is my Kajabi hosts all of my training and development work. And it's also the website and everything. So I'm glad that it's month to month because it's an affordable, reachable price for me within the month to month pricing. But I try when possible to do annual because usually you get a 10 to 15% discount by paying annually on most products, right?
Right. And so that's what it was. So around this time of year, I'm on a June to June year cycle. So I pay my taxes, everyone else pays their taxes, but my business started in the summer. So for me, it's the year over year happens around this time. So I'm a ray of sunshine, let me tell you. I'm like, letting ice cubes melt so I don't have to run the water in my house around this time of year, right? No, I'm not that bad. But what I realized is how much money I was spending on things. So I also am a course creator. I help people with training, speakers, coaches, consultants, any service provider who's trying to automate. And so I use a service similar to Kajabi, but not at that price point. But I realized that even with that, for example, if I would have just paid for the year up front, which at the time I wasn't really sure if that made sense for me,
right,
would have saved like $300 or something. Yeah. So that was a big one for me. And then I am like all about services and all about when you don't have the money though, like what happens is it's not so efficient, right? So you pay $8 for this and $9 for that and $13 for this. And so it's still considerably less upfront cost every month, but year over year, it costs you more to not pay for those services.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. So what other type of services, if you're willing to share, are you currently using? I think we were going to talk about specifically our social media approaches today.
Okay.
So what do you like?
I like so many things. I'm not a big scheduler person, but I do like Planoly. I think that's how you say it. And so what you do is you go and you upload your content, and then it like auto posts whatever time you tell it to. I do actually really like Facebook Scheduler. So the thing I like about Facebook Scheduler is really two things. One, Facebook's algorithm likes it, right, which helps.
Yes.
And then two, it's pretty easy to use. Like it is really an enjoyable experience. And I like the way like the algorithms and the feedback you can get from Facebook based on what you post. What did I call insights? That's the word I was saying.
Yeah, the data analytics they have definitely improved significantly in the recent years.
Yes, and they're much easier to digest. So I appreciate that. What's another social media tool that I really, really like? I like Loom. It's not social media, so I cheated, but it can be. So what you do with Loom is you know, if you're a trainer, and some people don't like to be a talking head, but they don't love just doing the PowerPoints. And so Loom allows you to go through your PowerPoint and record yourself at the same time. So I really like Loom. What's another one? InShot is a social media tool I use for video.
I don't know that.
Okay, so for video and for pictures, if you're trying to sharpen your image or filter it to make it look more like movie-ish, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love InShot. You can do a lot of really cool things with InShot.
So I use Canva.
Yes.
And one of the nice things I like about Canva is similar to what you were saying. If you don't want to be just the talking head, you can record and you can choose based on what slide you're in to show your face or not. So sometimes there's actually a lot of research, Angela, There's a lot of research that says at certain times you should have the talking head be a part of the slide. And at certain times you want to step back from that, depending on the content that you're delivering.
Okay.
And Canva allows you to basically turn your head on and off on the different slides. So if you're talking about something inspirational, you want to have your head there, like that face, the matters. There's a social impact associated with it in order to drive the retention, etc. In contrast, when you're talking about something very technical, the talking head actually takes away from the focus on the content.
Right.
So depending on what you're wanting to do, like maybe I want to make a point, fail forward, right? I always talk about failing forward and how you're going to learn from those experiences. So in my emotional delivery of failing forward, I would probably use my face. But then when I say, these are the 3 facts, wait, my finger's not in the screen. These are my 3 facts. There we go.
Yeah.
Then I would be like, hey, I'm going to take my face away. I'm going to show the 3 facts that really tie this concept to neuroscience.
Right.
And we're going to put those up there and we're going to talk about those in a voiceover type of thing. And then you can come back on for your next kind of emotional thing. So understanding like the learning theory and tying that into your social media messaging, I love to have that power and that freedom to do that in order to meet my clients where they are.
And I use Canva. I didn't want to steal yours, but I use Canva almost. Hey, Ray.
That's okay.
Hey, ladies.
I use Canva almost every day for different things. I really enjoy if you are a new business owner and you are pitching to businesses and you want to make it look professional, neat, clean, and awesome. Canva is a great way to do all those things for, I don't know, what is the pro? $14 a month. If you're a nonprofit, I believe it's free. Right. So it's a great way to level the playing field of aesthetic and professionalism without having to spend, hundreds of dollars to pay for a presentation maker or hiring someone to do it. It's a really, really great tool.
Yeah,
I use Canva too. Let's see. I think guys have a different take. I was listening to you ladies on, and if a guy gets into a software, listen, we don't want to worry about all the fancy stuff. We're not worried about all the bells and whistles. We want to know that it works. We don't want to know that we can turn a computer on, and we want to know that we can make the presentation, or if we have to pass it off to someone, we pass it off to someone. But so my question to you both is, I'll represent the Neanderthals of the world.
Oh
right?
my goodness.
The folks that are just getting into the space, but don't know a lot, right? So if I was doing that, what would be the best for me? What would be the process that I would use to find out what would be the best for me?
So are we talking about what specifically in the business are you trying to improve? I guess.
Okay, let's say I have a widget business and my widgets are $14.95 a piece. Now I know I've got the best widgets in the world, and I've got to get those. I got to get my advertising out there. I need something that I can present to big companies as well as small companies, so that I can be on the same level playing field without them knowing that I'm as dumb as a rock. Okay. And I'm not saying this to anybody, but there are entrepreneurs that just don't know much, but are starting at the beginning, right? So what's the game plan? What would I need to do as a new entrepreneur entering the space?
Okay. I have some ideas, but
Go for it.
Okay. So I am a seasoned professional new business owner, right? And so if I had to say some things that you need up front, if you are not tech savvy and you want to do, if you have to choose between a website, right, or a landing page type of service.
Okay, why do I need a website? I have a business. Why do I need a website?
So I was going to buck the system. I was going to say you don't need the website, but since you said that, I'll say you need a website because you need a home, right? So you can be a world traveler, but you need some place for your mail to go. And so your website is essentially like a billboard that people use to qualify you, right? It legitimizes you, and sometimes it creates community, but oftentimes it's also where you will receive payment. As we continue to grow and technology changes, more and more we don't use websites, right? Like people use landing pages. They usually use the merchant service provider within whatever service that they're offering.
Okay, stop. Wait a minute. What is a landing page? I have no idea what this is.
You don't know what this is? You want to start it? Okay,
what is a landing page?
If you want to, hold on. Hey, Nia, if you want to start a business and you are unclear about landing pages and websites and all those sorts of things, I would say, first of all, hire a coach. If you cannot afford a coach, which was the case for most of my clients in the beginning, SCORE is a great program that offers mentors, but they also teach you how to start your business. So they answer that pesky question: what's an LLC? Should I S Corp? Should I C Corp? How do I make my business make sense? Right? If you are so new that you're unsure about the basic lingo, right? Absolutely find resources that will help get you over the initial hump.
Okay,
Ray.
But okay,
1 second. I wanted to jump in on that one.
Go right ahead.
Many communities have, whether they called them the Forge or the Factory or what's the one in Columbus? We have another industrial name, but there's a lot of new business incubators. So the coaches, of course, are your one-on-one, and you're definitely going to get more personalized approach and support from a coach.
Right.
But looking into your community, we have Women of Economic Development, right? Leaders and developers. We have ICDI, ECDI, all these different things in our particular area. They're going to help you and coach you. And you can participate in some of those coaching activities, and then also find a peer that you're walking along in this journey together. Very cost effective. Some of these events are only like $200-300 and can take place over a period of time because they're reaching specific industries or specific demographics. They're designed to help and be cost affordable. So also consider your economics and what's available locally.
Right. Okay. So I'm in a small town and I don't have a lot of resources. You started telling me about a website and a landing page. So let's start from there. So what's the difference between a website and a landing page? Because I don't think you answered that. And then which one would I need?
So it really just depends on the type of services you want to provide. Like I can speak for myself, right? So I am a service provider. I don't offer any physical products, and all I offer is trainings, courses, and ebooks, right? Okay. And so for me, landing pages serve two purposes, right? They allow me the opportunity to share with you what it is I am offering you, but also they allow you the opportunity to either capture email addresses and or accept forms of payment, right? Okay. And so in many cases, right, you can have a website that is a long form, so to speak, a bunch of landing pages together, or you can have a landing page that just will allow people to literally come, see what it is that you're offering, digest information, decide how and if they want to move forward. So
a landing page is actually just a page on a website.
No, it's its own page. It's a standalone.
It's just standalone page. Okay.
It can be on a website, but it can also be a standalone.
Okay.
But if we're talking about if you're going to have one or the other, which is the question that you asked, absolutely, we want to make sure that we stay who we are. Then for these purposes, a landing page is separate from a website.
Okay. What would be the reason that I would need a website? Do I need more than one product or more than one service? What would be the differentiator?
I think I honestly feel like it depends on preference. I have run my business and I can tell you with 100% honesty, no one has ever asked me for my website. It exists. I got it for credibility. I got it because in the industry that I am and for the clients that I do service, if someone were to ever ask or want to reference me, I wanted to have a landing page where my biography exists, where my services exist, where if they wanted to purchase, they could, but it's not at all how I accept clients at all.
Okay, so Angela, what do you think? I mean, again, I'm trying to get a lot of different opinions here, and I've got two coaches here, and I just want to figure out for my business, which is, for my widget business, which is better. So what do you think?
My opinion, and realizing, right, my focus is really on that structural operational thing once you get going.
Yeah.
But from my experience, that your website is more about your story and the credibility, like Chanel was saying.
Okay.
So it's a little more content heavy. Hey, I want to know more about this person. I want to know their background. I want to see how they've done. And maybe there's even a couple case studies or something like that content generation that you could have in there. Whereas your landing page is the first step. It is one of the steps in your sales funnel. So you want to sell those widgets. What I want to understand is, that landing page, with that one landing page, are you going to be targeting B2B, business to business, right? Wholesaling, or are you going to be targeting individuals? There are a few who are able to make the transition from one to the other in their very first landing page.
Right.
I've tried in mine. I don't know that I've succeeded, but that's what I've tried to do, is reach out corporate and then also individual and guide them in that direction with my landing page. But it's a little tricky. I'm not going to say that I've been overly successful with it.
Okay, so I've got a face for radio. I don't really want my face on the landing page, but okay, I'll work with that. I've got my landing page set up now. You mentioned something about being able to take money on the landing page. Now, what would I need to do that?
It depends on the product that you're selling, and also, truthfully, depends on where you are in the world. So, for example, my girlfriend deals specifically in CBD because there continues to be a misunderstanding that CBD is related to marijuana and not hemp. There is only one credit card processor in the country that will take credit cards that are using that. So for her to do online sales, she has to use a credit card processor specifically, not some of the PayPals and some of the things that the rest of us have available. So I can use PayPal, I could use Stripe. There's a few others that'll process specifically for small business owners. But my products are easy. I have no physical products. I'm selling directly to you as a consumer of my content. That need does not fit for everybody.
Okay.
So there's definitely a big what if. Again, who are you selling to and what are you selling? These questions have to be answered first before you start moving into, and at what volume, because there's also some business decisions that Chanel probably can tell you all the cost analysis of different ones at what volume. Where does it make sense? Because there are different costs associated with high volume versus low volume.
So Chanel, I sell out of my truck right now. You're right. I sell my widgets out of my truck. So it's not like I have a whole lot to sell, but I can make them, when I need to make them, and I have orders. So, but I don't want this thing to cost me more than my widgets sell for. So what would you suggest? Which ones would you suggest? What's the most cost effective way for me to get started with this, as far as being able to accept payments on my landing site, my landing page, excuse me.
So, see, that's a tricky question. I guess for me, I would have to defer to someone who deals in physical products, because like I said, I don't deal in physical products. So like you build, it seems like it's a very custom, unique widget that you make. My value doesn't happen that way. So when I think about accepting forms of payment, oftentimes, unless I am building directly, like if I build like a website, a landing page through a landing page builder, oftentimes they'll tell you if your product costs over $1,000, we charge you a flat rate of 3%, or if it's under $1,000, it'll be $5 and 2%, something like that, right? The most sage advice I would give you, and this is why I kind of lean it, the former banker in me kind of leans against giving this kind of advice. Do your research, because I can sit here and I can tell you Stripe, I can tell you PayPal, I can tell you Zelle, right? Zelle is a account-to-account transfer that if it's under a certain amount, it doesn't cost you any money. And so it sounds like if you're selling out of your trunk, Zelle might be an amazing resource for you because it's just an account-to-account transfer. There's some risk involved with companies like that, though, because I'm not going to go into all of that. But what I'll say is, because we'll stay on course, absolutely do your research, because every website has a fee, or landing page service may have a fee. It might be more than what you're willing to pay, and that's okay. But what I do is when I'm trying to decide how much I want to pay for something, I get on Excel, right? And I put in, I'm sort of randomly named companies that don't actually exist. So I'm going to do red shirt, pink shirt, blue shirt, green shirt, right? I'm going to put them in a column, and I'm going to say, what is the cost? If it's 5%, okay, the 5% over a certain amount, under a certain amount. So by the time I'm done, I have my 4 colors that I'm working through, right? And then I'm able to see what the cost is. And then I'm going to say, if it's $100, obviously if it's one that's a flat 3%, I would rather pay 3% than the 5% or the 8%. It really just depends on, affordability is relative, right? So it depends on where you are, how much your product costs, how often you are going to pay that cost, because some companies will charge you a monthly fee, right? So you may only be 1% per purchase, but they charge you $20 a month, right? I could do this all day. I used to be in the industry. So all of that to say, if you're trying to decide what makes the most sense, it's relative to your business.
Okay. So good ones to take a stab at, though, right? Some starting point to look at and do those comparisons.
Okay.
Stripe, PayPal, Square. Those are very popular in the startup community. Venmo, also Zelle, Venmo, right? They're all in the same category. Apple Pay.
So I have 2 highly educated professionals on the line with me here, and I'm just a guy trying to sell stuff out of my truck. That's all I am. So listen, now if I get so now I've got this landing page, and now I know how to pay for it, right? Or rather, how to get people to pay me.
Get paid.
You can get paid, right? So, but what if I'm selling? Like I said, a lot of this I'm selling out of my trunk. So, how does that relate to? And what would I need if I'm just selling out of my truck to keep a hold of those expenses? I'm just selling a product out of my trunk. I'm not going to tell somebody to go online.
Are you talking about your cash? Are you talking about cash?
Yeah,
now?
Cash, exactly.
So, I mean, cash is cash. You take that to the bank. You make sure that you have a ledger, or you have your computer where you're entering that in on your own. I will say in the last 10 years, I've seen a huge change in the trucks for anybody that's bringing in a home service, right? Like your HVAC guys or anything. All of them now have a credit card processing. They are all carrying a tablet of some sort.
What would you recommend? What kind of service would you recommend for that? Because that was what I was thinking of. Because I've seen guys that do that, right? So I've seen guys with the little tablets, and you're able to take credit cards over the phone. Those same services that you mentioned previously, do they offer that service as well?
Yes.
Your bank might actually offer a swipe. The little box that you can swipe, and it's a part of a program that's through your bank that will allow you to accept payments.
Okay.
That is unrelated, just so we're clear. It may be a plug-in, so it may be an option for a landing page or a website, but we're away from, I guess it's an entirely different question. That would be another, again, shop around. That's going to be my answer every time you ask me this, which is shop around, do the research, because affordability is relative.
Okay.
Right. So Venmo is an option if the person you're selling to has a cell phone.
Yep. Cash App.
Cash App is an option if the person you're selling to has a cell phone. If you need to take a physical credit card, the ones that I currently know of, and again, what's best for you really needs to do determination. Stripe has one, and Square has one. I don't know if PayPal has one or not. They might. I have not had to work with them in that regard.
Okay. So now I'm all set up and I'm ready to sell. How do I advertise? How do I market my widget?
Start talking to your friends. Never underestimate the power of friends.
Okay. I don't want to really bother my friends, but okay.
Well, then let's just jump in. If you don't want to talk to people who know you about your product or service, you're going to have a long, hard, unpaid road ahead of you, because it's easy to talk to someone who knows and cares about you, about what you love, right? And so they are probably not going to be your target market, but you can have very quality conversations. I can give you a great example. I have a friend who she and I have never shared the same industry. And as I have grown my business, I reached out to her and said, hey, I'm looking to shift gears and go in this direction. And she was like, oh, I have this resource, this entire folder of almost 5 years of information that would be a great value to you, because it's full of email addresses, phone numbers, and government resources, and like all these intangible things that I could not. It'd take me another 5 years to get all this information that she handed over to me that I've been able to monetize. It has essentially become a database for me. And so when you start talking to your friends about your widget, the conversation isn't always going to be about necessarily selling your widget to your friend, but more about like, hey, guess what? I am now a proud owner of, Wizard Widgets for kids. And I know you don't have any children, but this is what it is. This is how much it costs. Would you be interested in giving one to your niece? Or I know that you have worked in toy stores before. Do you remember anybody there who may want to have a meeting with me? In terms of like marketing, and we're talking about $0 marketing, that is always going to be the fastest way, is what I like to call network mapping. So going inside of your phone, your regular smartphone, and one by one saying, oh, Ray is rich. I remember. Let me call Ray and see if he want to down some widgets, and then you reach out to Angela. You're like, Angela's the most popular woman in the world. I know she's got $1 million and she can just slide me from my widgets.
I'm clearly right there.
Right. Yes. But that's what you have to do. You figure out how much money you have in your hand by going through small things like going through your cell phone and creating a good solid list of folks that may not be your target customer, but certainly could provide resources for you.
Okay. I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path because I've heard this and I'm not sure. Okay. I'm new to all this, so I don't know. Do I need to incorporate? I've got my website or my landing page, and I'm taking money, but do I need to incorporate my business?
If you're taking money by law, you need to be paying taxes. So, are you going to pay taxes if you're selling services? For example, my little fun hobby is playing my crazy instrument, right? I take my money and on my taxes, file that money as services rendered as Angela Buckley musician. And it's actually a thing on your 1040. It's really easy. And it's no big deal, frankly, right? Like I'm not incorporated as a musician honestly, I probably earn between 600 and 2,000 maximum a year. COVID year, nothing, whatever, right? Like it's just a little bit fun that defrays some of the costs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing something else where you're truly selling physical product, you have to pay taxes for sure. And then you need to strongly consider, do you want to be an S Corp? Do you want to be an LLC? How are you handling your costs, etc.? You can do business kind of just as yourself. That is not always the best tax venue to do that, depending on your volume. If you're doing it just a little bit on the side for a weekend here or there because you're selling out of your garage or something, you can kind of get away with that. But anytime you're talking about this is my primary income, you absolutely want to be incorporated in some way in order to understand what your costs are, what your taxes are going to look like. And really your objective is to manage your money well, like we talk about fiduciary responsibility. And that means, frankly, not giving more taxes to the government than you should. You should 100% pay taxes. I'm grateful for the services that we get in this country. Absolutely. This is a great country. I'm willing to pay for that. However, it is also my job as a business owner to make sure that I am providing a value and having good habits with my money. And that means not paying more than I need to as well. Right, banker?
I think that I am not the person to tell you how to incorporate. So I won't do that. What I will tell you is there are many, many great resources. Some are free, some are paid. Before you go and decide between a sole proprietorship, an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, those are all tax distinctions. And so I am not an accountant. I'm not an attorney. So I will strongly suggest, as you are a new business owner, to do things right the first time. Absolutely reach out to an accountant. Like I mentioned, SCORE is a Small Business Association, which is a federal agency. They do have offices that even pre-pandemic would talk to you on the phone instead of face-to-face, and they will walk you through what the options are for your state. Because for some states, you file your LLC every year or every 2 years or every 5 years, or you have to do paperwork every 6 months. And so many different options in the states vary, and the laws vary in so many different ways. So you have the states that are competing for certain information and resources, and then you also have federal things that you need to comply with. So my free advice would be invest in someone else's genius and have them help you navigate that. You can pay for it, but there are a lot of really, really great resources available at low to no cost.
Now, with COVID, and it seems like everyone's talking about this big economic explosion that's going to happen within the next year to year and a half, because we're supposedly coming out of this pandemic. So what resources, you guys talk about a lot of resources. And again, being a newbie and trying to figure out this space, how would I know if I'm not as successful as I need to be, if I'm not making 6 figures in 2 to 3 years, or even high 5 figures in 2 to 3 years? I mean, should I give up or just maybe, I know you guys talked about finding a coach, but that's added expense. So if I'm not making the money that I think I need to make, I mean, where do I go for help? What do I do? Because you mentioned talking to my friends, but my friends don't share my vision. I talk to my wife. She tells me to go away. I talk to friends. They say, well, and then they want to talk about other things. So what do I, because I feel like I'm taking this journey by myself.
I am probably, how can I put this? My entire professional career has been about me articulating value and knowing no strangers, right? Like that doesn't process in my head. If I need something, I'll ask for it. And so if you're looking for people, like building your community, finding your tribe, I have some pretty bold things you can try. Number one, I started a whole new Facebook. So the reason why, and I said this last podcast, and I'll probably say this every cast, You don't want to be stuck between, someone's 80th birthday party, which is awesome, and then also like some bad news or someone ranting about not wanting to wear a mask or maskne. That's the new thing. Mask acne is everywhere. You don't want to be stuck in between mask acne, right? Especially with people you know. So part of developing your brand often is starting from the ground up. So step one would be starting new social media. Getting really intentional about typing in coach, typing in, I don't know, wizard widget lovers or whatever it is, the market that you're in, and start adding those people as a friend, and then posting about yourself in a way that makes you comfortable, posting about your product, and then it's like building a community. On Facebook specifically, one of the things I love the most is that whatever you like, there's 100,000 people somewhere congregated on Facebook who love it as much as you. I'm in a group right now that has over 80,000 women who love Target, right? And so all the time they post about things they love and they give product reviews, and it's great. On Instagram, follow people who share your common interest, and more than that, engage with them, and you'll start to build a network of people who share your same ideals. And if you're really bold, like me, you get on LinkedIn, you'll start to add folks, and then you'll just send them messages asking them to have a virtual coffee, and just start making that bold ask saying, hey, I offer widgets. I see that you work at Widgets International. How do you guys curate your widgets, and who do I need to get in front of? Would you give me a review of my widget? You just have to be bold.
But Chanel, I sell out of my car, and I'm not that technically savvy. I'm not that guy that is on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok.
Okay.
So I have, maybe a fear of social media for that matter, right? So
right.
How do I get over that? Okay.
Let's take a step back.
Okay.
Why? What do you want? Why are you selling out of your car? What's your goal?
Okay, so I'm selling out of my car because I created this product, and it's really, really good, and people have really credited me for it. I don't want to say exactly what it is on online right now, but it's something that's really, really good, and I want to go into business for myself. I have this this big idea about going into business for myself. And so I'm just trying to jump in where everybody else is, or everyone else seems to be swimming where the money is. I'm just trying to jump in there myself. So that's my why.
Well, I would like to jump in and say that if you're selling things out of your trunk and you don't like Facebook, you wouldn't have found us.
Well, I mean, you were recommended to me. Fine, I'm jumping on. This is something new for me. I'm jumping on. I'm nervous about it.
Well, but if you were bold enough to come and find us, then please continue down the path and engage with people.
But how would you? Okay, I'm here, granted, but let's jump back and be serious for a second. Okay. Someone that is not as internet savvy as you ladies are. So, how would you suggest someone that's a newbie getting into the space to get over that fear of social media? Because let's face it, there are a lot of people that have a fear of social media. They don't want to embarrass themselves, so to speak, or they just don't know where to look or where to go.
Who's to say that we're not scared? I know I keep jumping in, but let's just clear the air here, because I think there's some confusion. Every day I see my insights and people have shared my stuff, and I'm like, who did you send this to? Can you tell me who are these people? They have my face. I don't know why, if you are here and you think that we aren't, I don't embarrass easy. So I guess maybe that's what the thing is, that people are afraid of being embarrassed.
Okay.
I don't know. But to be fair, because you said something very serious, and I want to make sure that whoever is seeing us on this screen who assumes that we don't necessarily get uncomfortable or we don't, want to shy away from it. I had a very full transparency. I had a very rough morning, and I was like, I just want to go in my bed and put my head under the covers and just try this again next year. But you know what? I didn't, right? Like, I just wasn't feeling my best. If you're asking me, how do you overcome your fear? Start. There is no secret recipe. I cannot give you some antidote. It doesn't. If they had it, I would have used it for myself. It doesn't exist. If you're asking, how do you get over your fear? You start. That's the only advice I can give you.
We tell marathon runners all the time, you have to take the first step. You don't cover 26 miles. You cover one step at a time. That is how you run a marathon. That is how you run a business. And I'm not going to lie, to Chanel's point, it's rough. Sometimes there's conflict. Sometimes, we have this conversation. I don't like asking for the money. I just want to deliver the content and the value and everything else. I don't like asking for the money. I just want the money to somehow magically appear in my account when I'm done. It doesn't do that.
I'd like
so
that. I'd like
unfortunately, I have to ask for it, right? This is uncomfortable. Like, I grew up in a world where polite people don't talk about money. That's what we were taught. But guess what? I don't know how those polite people were paying the bills, because they weren't paying my bills. You have to ask for the money, and you have to understand what your value is. And you have to be able to say, this is my value, and that is why this is how much you're going to pay me. And then you have to make sure you get it. And that's part of business ownership. And I talk about that because for me, that's probably the most uncomfortable part of the entire thing. It's not the start, it's the end. But without it, I can't start the next part.
And Maria, what do you think? And welcome to the
yeah. So Chanel mentioned about having a crazy morning. It's been a crazy morning, and then all my computers were doing weird things. So I am happy to be here. I've just been listening. I was listening in the back room for a while, but I think a couple of points that I noticed was that you all were talking about doing things afraid. I think fear is looked at as this terrible negative emotion. And I think it can be, but it also can be used as a catalyst, because I think you're always going to have a level of fear on anything new you do. Even if it's something you've always done, but there's a new element to it or a new experience attached to it, just sometimes you have that level of fear to the unknown. But I think you can pull that off, that there is more than one definition of fear. There's the level of it that would be a negative, connotation. But when you're dealing with the business world, it's not that. It's the uncertainty. So I think what a lot of people are calling fear is really just uncertainty, that they're not sure what's going to happen. But you have to get to the point where you're okay with not knowing what's going to happen. And they, like you all mentioned, taking that first step and telling yourself that, okay, well, if I'm taking this first step, I've already kind of calculated to the best of my ability what my step's going to be. What's the worst that can happen from a step? I've already figured that out, So if you've already figured out what the worst that could happen when you take that step is, what is there to be afraid of?
Okay. So let's go 3 years down the line.
Are you still selling out of your truck?
I'm no longer selling out of my trunk, out of the trunk
Okay.
of my car. And I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing 5 figures, but I want to push to 6 figures. What would you suggest? What techniques would you suggest to push my business further?
That's such an open-ended question. Can you give us a more specific?
I'll start. I'll take some stabs, and then you can stab at me, Chanel.
There you go.
Angela loves data analytics, so I want to know the numbers. Where have you been? Can you show me that you have some tracking of your costs year over year?
Right.
Can you show me that you have some tracking of your benefits, right? Like the money coming in year over year. Do you have a clear understanding of how you can reduce your costs while increasing those benefits? And if that's continuing on an upward trend, what is driving that? Is it labor oriented? Is it a variable cost or a fixed cost, right? So what is variable cost? Variable cost means that as you increase in volume, your cost goes up, right? So it's a piece part thing. Whereas a fixed cost would be the cost associated with, I don't know, owning your truck or renting your warehouse where you're keeping maybe you just have a garage spot where you're doing all of your work to make these parts that you're selling. Mm-hmm. My question to you is, can you sell more if you bring a person on? You need to understand what these costs are and how you can identify your fixed cost versus your variable costs before you make the decision of getting help or sending it out to be made. Like, is this something that's highly artisan, or is it something that we can mass produce? I met this person who makes music stands from trees, right? Like they're amazing woodcraft music stands. That person is never going to sell high volume because that person is like going out and hiking in the woods and finding these magical trees that they want to make music stands from. They're super expensive. They're beautiful. They are works of art. They are not high volume. That's their business plan, and that's where they want to go, and they're happy doing it. But if you're selling those little hot froggy things that just bounce off the table because the kids love them, that is mass production, and that is a completely different business plan. You need to understand which type of business, what type of article are you going for? Can you expand into that mass market? Can you do part mass and part custom, right? Part artisan. There's ways of taking that. That, in fact, is my little widget right there, is like understanding those parts of that before you get into where should I expand or how should I expand. You really need to understand your widget, your costs, your marketing and engineering, flowing all of your documents, etc. If you want help there, I can help you.
So once I have control of that, I know where I know my cost benefit analysis. I know all the little stuff that I'm supposed to know. I'm not even gonna. I'll leave it there. What do I do? What's my next step?
Now you've completed
do I create a business plan and have that business plan help tell my story, or can I go to a bank right away and say, hey, I want to expand? I mean, where do I go?
I would do all of those things. I would go to a bank and ask for some help because they will also provide that coaching. I might employ a coach. I might reach out to my local community entrepreneur center that's helping people build those stories and also provide some of that funding, low cost funding and support. I think at that point, you start talking about scenario planning. I'm going to go down this route. I'm going to go down this route, and I'm going to go down this route, and look at what those cost benefits are, and then decide where you want to go from there. So it's not a one step. It's let's see what happens here, here, and here, and then start looking for help, truly, to help you make that business decision. You don't have to make that decision in a vacuum. Talk to people. Show all of those things to trusted sources, coaches, locals, business. I hope at this point, since you've been selling for 3 years, you've built some network. Reach out to those trusted business networkers and ask them for their opinion. And pay them. Pay the guys that are good at what they do, whatever it is, not tons and tons of money, not more than you can afford for sure. But get some information, get some feedback. You don't need to do it in a vacuum. In fact, nobody sells in a vacuum.
Is it cost me more to sell to customers that I've already sold to or to new customers?
Come on, Maria.
For anybody.
New customers is going to cost more. So your repeat customers usually earn you more and are the lower cost and the lower hanging fruit. Your new customers are always going to cost you more, which is usually why, you'll see a entrepreneur or a company struggling and with finances, with cash flow, and their first solution is to attack increase of sales. But the problem is, if they haven't implemented better processes or implemented things on what's going on right now to make sure that their customer base is secured, and they haven't tried tapping into customers that are already there that you can offer a new service or an upsell or whatever the case may be, or another sell if they were a past client, that's a low-hanging fruit. You spend much more time and resources trying to reach that new customer, which is important. But if we're just talking about cost analysis, yeah, it's going to cost more to get a client.
Chanel, you want to jump in?
I don't sell physical products, and so it's hard for me to answer this question outside of the realm of just like an educated guess. And so I would say, if I were trying to increase revenue based on maybe what I already offer, right? Because I think I have a sweet spot. I'm earning income, and I'm going to get placed if I want to improve. I would say maybe you sell, you can try bundling things. You can try, maybe you sell something where you maybe do a small add-on. So you make Christmas wizards, right? So instead of you just having your regular widgets, right? I don't know what a widget is, so just go with it. You sell Christmas widgets. You may offer the exact same garden gnome, but you put a Santa Claus hat on it, right?
Yeah,
and
it's
so
something like that. Exactly
sure.
like that. I got you.
Okay. So then you can like add costumes to it that would probably be a low cost once you figure out what that is. And every year you have a promotional 4th of July one or a Christmas one, right? And so when I think about like how to add revenue without maybe reinventing the wheel, so to speak, sometimes changing what you offer can be an added value. Or you can, like, instead of just having wizards sold separately, you sell wizard families. Or see, like, what I'm trying to say is that, like, sometimes you can create like combo meals, right? Like McDonald's makes more on combos than they do than just a fry, just a burger, or just a drink, right? Like there's a reason why people like combos. And so maybe you can come up with a combo meal for your widgets. Sometimes
combo widget. Okay, that's
yeah.
a pretty good idea.
Yeah, so like, because I would imagine after year 3, unless you just have one magical widget, you are now selling the wizard crew, right? And so sometimes, again, combining them or having like widget dream house. So you want to like look out and see how you turn it from just being a one individual to an entire lifestyle, right? I think that is the way you gradually grow. Sometimes it's not always about cutting costs. Sometimes it's about, refurbishing what you already have. Again, so taking your separate wizards and turning them into a wizard family and selling them. Or it's saying, hey, maybe we have like wizards at the beach, and so now we offer like a boat for it. Like, I have no idea what this thing is.
I'm sure you have given somebody out there some serious food for thought. And it's been fun. I've taken Maria's job normally. She's the one that facilitates.
I like it. It's good. Go for it.
So I apologize, but I know we're running out of time. So I just want to ask the 3 of you about business failure. Okay, because there are entrepreneurs that have failed. They're not sure that they want to get back on a horse or not. They're not sure how to get back on a horse or not. So I'm going to ask each of you in the time that we have you failed in your business at some point? And if so, have you gotten back on the horse?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, Maria, you can start.
I most definitely have failed. And honestly, I think that you said there's some that have failed and some haven't. I think there's some that are telling the truth and there's some that are not. Because there is going to be a level of failure with any learning curve. And, you can kind of define failure how you want. But, there's definitely been decisions within my business that I made. And I'm a big believer in going with your gut feeling. If your gut feeling doesn't feel like, ooh, this is definitely it. If you're like, I don't know, the answer is no. Just say no. Just trust me on that. Because every single time that I didn't go with my gut feeling, I regretted it. Now, thankfully, I've been able to bounce back from it. But there's been some very expensive lessons. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars on saying yes when I should have said no. So, those are things I always tell people. I'm a jumper. I'll always be a jumper. I like to, let's try it. Let's do something new. I'm more of a hesitant jumper now because once you've fallen on your face enough times, you're like, oh, that hurt, but it's taught me more. Like, I know Angela has done, and I've heard her speak on this, the fail forward speaking engagement. And it is that. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's not going to happen again. I've put up extra boundaries because of that. I have different questions I ask because of that. There's more processes that have been put into my business decisions because of all that. And I think, I think that's the biggest thing is if you make a, failure decision, if you make a bad decision in your business, don't take it as an infinite decision. Fix whatever needs fixed because of the decision that was made. Figure out what was wrong with that decision. Why didn't it work out? Figure out what decisions that you need to make next time or what boundaries and such processes you need to put in place to make sure something like that doesn't happen again. I think if it's looked at as just a learning curve, and sometimes an expensive one, but a learning curve, that's something that allows you to, quote unquote, get back on the horse. If you look at it as, oh, I shouldn't be doing this, I just failed, that's a whole different mental, approach than it is, that was a expensive lesson that I learned, but still a lesson.
Chanel, I'm going to limit you to about 3 minutes.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
Chanel, go for it.
Oh, I've talked about this a lot. So I failed, spent a bunch of money, lost a bunch of money, was very arrogant about it, and hid for a couple of years. The free advice would be own it. I think the way I got over failure was I started telling people I failed. And I got very clear about how I failed, because not making money is not the same as failing. You have to be very clear about why you didn't make money. So be honest about that and talk to people who are smarter than you. I started talking to marketing people. I started talking to sales people. I started talking to coaches, people who I solicited who didn't, I didn't win the business. Get real serious about being better. And, maybe if you want to get back into entrepreneurship, again, my only advice, the best advice anyone's ever given me is just to start. Figure out what it is you want to do, and it's okay to change. Like, business is fluid. You're not stuck with being, this one-dimensional business forever. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. Just get started.
Angela, floor is yours.
Oh, yeah. So this is my third business. And every time I start a business, I basically double whatever I did the last time. So yay. I just keep learning. So the first time I tried to do something, I don't even know what I was thinking. I was trying to do B2C, and that is just so not my world. I just don't know the consumer marketing. I don't know the consumer. I don't have that social group that's like heavy. We're all kind of minimalists and introverts. And by the way, it's not really useful to try to sell widgets to minimalists and introverts. That's not what we buy, right? In case you were wondering, look elsewhere to sell things to us. But yeah, so I made more money in the first month when I switched over the second time. And then the next time I earned probably add a zero to that. It was 10 times easily when I started doing the consulting and more of where my vibe belongs and the support that I have for that. So for sure, pivoting is really important. No one likes to actually call it failure. So these were my learning opportunities. For sure. My first business is goodbye. Thank you very much. I love the product, but I do not miss all the other businessy parts of it. So I'm going to stick right where I am with my consulting and my kind of more data analytics side of the world, manufacturing and support.
I got you. So with 3 minutes left, Ms. Maria, I turn the mic back over to you.
All right. Well, technically we have 0 minutes left, but that's fine.
Oh, okay.
So we are done for the day. So sorry that I ended up getting on late, everybody. I thank you all for keeping the show rolling, but that's how it goes sometimes. For everybody that's been listening and watching, thank you all. Make sure you click like and share, and we will be back again next week at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And you have your co-hosts, Maria Daniels, Ray Baxter, Chanel Rose, and Angela Buckley, and appreciate you being there. So I guess let me...
Bye, Instagram.